We have all heard of Atlantis, the legendary island that sank into the sea in a single day and night. But who came up with it? Was Atlantis a real place? And is there more to the story than this? We got the story of Atlantis from the Greek philosopher Plato, really from two of his writings, Timaeus and Critias. The books date to around 360 BC. In these books, Plato wrote that the Greek sage Solon was given the story in Egypt by a priest. Upon his return, Solon shared the story with his relative Dropides. Then Dropides passed it down to his son Critias, who told his grandson, also named Critias, who finally shared it with the philosopher Socrates and others who were present. This list should not be taken as historical fact, but as a true account of what Plato wrote. Whether we decide to believe in the legend is our own choice. Remember to subscribe and enable notification for frequent updates from our channel. Many books and TV shows have been made about the possible location of Atlantis. A quick search on Google will show that some people say Santorini is Atlantis, while others believe that the waters of Bimini are hiding a road to the lost city. However, if we look at Plato's text, it tells us where the submerged island once stood. The text reads that Atlantis came forth out of the Atlantic Ocean. It goes on to say that there was an island situated in front of the straits, which are by you referring to ancient Greeks called the Pillars of Heracles. Today, we call this the Strait of Gibraltar, where Spain and Africa are separated by a narrow strip of sea. While not quite GPS coordinate, this narrows the island's location down from a tourist trap in the Bahamas. In 2011, University of Hartford archaeologist Richard Friend and his team found memorial cities, or cities that were built in the image of Atlantis. The series of cities were found buried in the swamps of Donana National Park, just north of Cadiz in Spain. As it turns out, Cadiz sits right outside the strait. This has friends convinced that the real Atlantis was buried in the mudflats of the Atlantic. His findings match the story's text that the sea in those parts is impassable and impenetrable because there is a swirl of mud in the way, and this was caused by the subsidence of the island. Cadiz is also said to be one of the oldest cities still standing in Western Europe. It is believed to have been built by the Phoenicians around 700 BC, but some records claim the city goes as far back as 1100 BC. Greek myth says that the city dates back even before this period. Why is this important? Long ago, the city's name was Cadiz. This is convenient since the text tells of an Atlantean prince called Gadeirus by the prehistoric citizens of Cadiz. He was given the far eastern side of Atlantis. This part of the island would have faced modern-day Cadiz. That is why the story says that Cadiz or Cadiz was named after the prince. Of course, Plato wrote all this at least 340 years after the city's findings. So, maybe he was being liberal when he was naming Atlantean princes. Most people probably believe that Atlantis got its name from being in the Atlantic Ocean, but the text claims that it is the other way around. As the story goes, Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea, had 5 pairs of male twins with a mortal Atlantean woman named Cleito. The god gave each of his 10 sons different portions of the islands over which to rule. Gadeirus was the second eldest of these sons. While he may have had a city in Spain named after him, it was his elder twin, Atlas, who would have the glory of being the island's namesake. As the firstborn, Atlas has the entire island and even the surrounding ocean named after him. His children would also reign over Atlantis forever. We know that Plato wrote at least 2 books about Atlantis. Today, we have a complete version of Timaeus, but we do not have a completed copy of Critias. Critias ends after Zeus. head of the Greek gods, collected all the goods into their most holy habitation, which, being placed in the center of the world, beholds all created things. And when he had called them together, he spake as follows. It ends there. It is not known if Plato left the book incomplete on purpose or if the finished version was lost long ago. Not only are we missing the ending of Critias, but it is thought that Plato wrote, or at least planned to write, a third book on Atlantis called Hermocrates. There are a couple of facts to support this theory. A line in Critias reads, Critias, we will grant your request, and will grant the same by anticipation to Hermocrates, as well as to you and Timaeus. This suggests that the third account of the story was to be given by Hermocrates. Also, the names of the three books may contain a hidden message, especially when one looks at the order in which Plato wrote or would have written them. Timaeus comes from the Greek word theo, meaning to honor. Critias comes from the Greek word krima, meaning judgment. And lastly, Hermocrates is derived from Hermes, the messenger of the Greek gods. Timaeus honors prehistoric Athens for its heroism. Critias presumably ends with Zeus' judgment of Atlantis. But what message might Hermocrates have delivered? The answer may lie in what we know about Hermocrates himself. He was a real-life military leader who helped to lead the successful defense of Syracuse against Athens during the Peloponnesian War. This is much like the story of Atlantis. In the story, an Athenian state from archaic times repels an attack from the superior forces of Atlantis. Maybe the message in Hermocrates would have touched on why Athens' attack on Syracuse failed and how Syracuse was able to defend itself from conquest. Unless someone finds a copy of this book, we may never know the whole story of Atlantis. Solon was said to be the wisest of all Greek sages. The text states that the story of Atlantis was handed down to Solon in Egypt when he wanted to drill one of the priests to speak about their oldest of tales. To do this, Solon decided to tell the priest about the oldest Greek stories he could recall. He spoke to them about the great flood and about the first man. After listening to Solon, one priest responded, "O Solon, Solon, there is not an old man among you. In mind you are all young. There is no old opinion handed down among you by ancient tradition." The priest went on to say that Athens, Solon's home city, was much older than they thought it was. In the Egyptian register at Sais, it was written that Sais was founded 8,000 years before their own time. It was also recorded that Athens was founded 1,000 years before Sais, and that the Athenians of this time fought off Atlantis. Solon lived from roughly 630 BC to about 560 BC. If the story is true, then the fall of Atlantis occurred around 9500 BC. This would make Athens about as old as Göbekli Tepe, which is dated to around 10,000 BC and is considered to be the world's first temple by archaeologists today. This will flip history on its head, but for now, it will have to remain on its feet. We said that no one should take this list as a historical account. In the text, however, Critias claimed that his story is true. Then listen to a tale which, though strange, is certainly true, having been attested by Solon, to which Socrates responded, "Very good. And what is this ancient famous action of the Athenians which Critias declared on the authority of Solon to be not a mere legend but an actual fact?" It is important to note that Plato discerned fact from fiction in his story. There is a story that once upon a time, Petion, the son of Helios, having yoked the steeds in his father's chariot because he was not able to drive them in the path of his father, burned up all that was upon the earth and was himself destroyed by a thunderbolt. Now, This has the form of a myth, but really signifies the declination of the bodies moving in heavens around the earth. Here, Plato acknowledges that some myths are symbolic in nature. However, he states in his book that this Atlantis was real, not a myth. If Atlantis was Plato's fantasy, why would he assert that the story of Atlantis was true, but have no problem saying that a Greek myth was created to represent something else? Did Plato believe his own story? Did he want his readers to think it was true? Maybe he was trying to throw his readers off the trail of a message hidden deep within the story. That would be some seriously ancient reverse psychology at work. What is your thought about this Atlantis? Let us know in comments. If you enjoyed this video and want to watch more of our content, kindly click on the playlist here for more interesting ancient history and archaeology videos. Remember to subscribe and enable notification for frequent updates from our channel. Like, share with friends and family on social media. Thank you very much for watching.